Now we'll look at the blood vessels and nerves of the foot, starting with the veins. The superficial veins of the lateral aspect of the foot join together to form the short saphenous vein. The ones on the medial aspect of the foot join together to form the long saphenous vein. In addition, at a deeper level, the arteries, which we'll be looking at next, are closely accompanied by concomitant veins like these. From here on, we'll remove all the concomitant veins to simplify the picture. We last saw the anterior and posterior tibial arteries entering the foot beneath the extensor retinaculum and flexor retinaculum, respectively. Here's the anterior tibial artery at the ankle, passing beneath the extensor retinaculum. We'll remove the retinaculum. As it passes in front of the ankle, the anterior tibial artery crosses beneath extensor hallucis longus, emerging lateral to it. It gives off branches to the tarsal region, then continues on to the dorsum of the foot. Beyond this point, it's known as the dorsalis pedis artery. The dorsalis pedis artery passes beneath the extensor hallucis brevis muscle, gives off this first dorsal metatarsal artery, and ends by diving through the first interosseous muscle to join up with the lateral plantar artery, which we'll see in a minute. Now we'll look at the posterior tibial artery, or rather at its two terminal branches, the medial plantar and lateral plantar arteries. Here's where we saw them last, emerging from under the flexor retinaculum, the lower part of which has been removed in this dissection. Also removed are the abductor hallucis muscle here and the plantar aponeurosis here. This is the distal end of the posterior tibial artery. This is the lateral plantar artery. This is the medial plantar artery. The medial plantar artery is usually the smaller of the two. It crosses over the tendons of the two long toe flexors and runs along the medial side of the foot. Its branches supply the adjoining muscles and the underside of the big toe. Now we'll look at the lateral plantar artery. It passes deep to flexor digitorum brevis, which we'll remove. After giving off this calcaneal branch, the lateral plantar artery passes downwards and then laterally across flexor accessorius. When it reaches the base of the fifth metatarsal, which is here, it curves around and passes deep to flexor digitorum longus and the interosseous muscles to join up with the dorsalis pedis artery. Now we'll look at the nerves of the foot. We'll follow the nerves that we saw in the last section, the superficial and deep perineal nerves and the medial and lateral plantar nerves. There are two more nerves that we'll also look at for completeness, the sural nerve and the saphenous nerve. We'll start with the two perineal nerves. The superficial perineal nerve runs down in front of the lateral side of the ankle and breaks up into several branches. These fan out to provide sensation to this large area on the dorsum of the foot. The deep perineal nerve enters the foot along with the dorsalis pedis artery. It gives off a motor branch which supplies the short toe extensor muscles. It continues distally as a sensory nerve, which supplies this small area between the big and second toes. Next, we'll look at the medial and lateral plantar nerves. They follow the same course as the medial and lateral plantar arteries. Here's the medial plantar nerve. It gives off motor branches which supply flexor digitorum brevis, abductor hallucis, and flexor hallucis brevis. To follow the medial plantar nerve, we'll go round to the underside of the foot. Distally, the medial plantar nerve breaks up into common plantar digital nerves. These pass between the metatarsal heads, where each in turn divides into two plantar digital nerves. The medial plantar nerve supplies the underside of the big toe, the second, third, and half of the fourth toes. It also supplies this medial area on the sole of the foot. Now we'll look at the lateral plantar nerve. It runs just in front of the lateral plantar artery. To follow it, we'll again go round to the underside of the foot. Flexor digitorum brevis has been removed. The lateral plantar nerve gives motor branches to flexor accessorius and abductor digiti minimi. It then divides into a deep branch, which supplies all the interossei and adductor hallucis, and a superficial branch, which supplies flexor digiti minimi brevis and provides sensation to the lateral part of the sole, the fifth toe, and half of the fourth toe. To complete our picture of the nerves that provide sensation to the foot, we'll add two nerves that were passed over in the last section, the sural nerve and the saphenous nerve. The sural nerve, which runs down the back of the leg, is formed by two nerves which join together. One is the medial sural cutaneous branch of the tibial nerve. The other is the sural communicating branch of the common perineal nerve. The sural nerve runs down the lateral side of the ankle, behind the lateral malleolus. The sural nerve supplies sensation to a variable area along the lateral side of the foot. The saphenous nerve, a branch of the femoral nerve, emerges at the knee from beneath the insertion of the sartorius muscle. It runs down the medial side of the leg and supplies a variable area on the medial side of the foot and ankle. Last of all, the heel area is supplied by calcaneal branches of the tibial nerve, which are given off beneath the flexor retinaculum. We've seen all the muscles of the foot. Let's review them before we move on to look at the blood vessels and nerves of the foot. Here's extensor digitorum longus, extensor hallucis longus, extensor digitorum brevis, and hallucis brevis. On the back, here's flexor digitorum longus and flexor hallucis longus. Here are the interosseous muscles, the lumbricals, flexor accessorius, and flexor digitorum brevis. Here's abductor hallucis, flexor hallucis brevis, and adductor hallucis. And lastly, here are abductor digiti minimi and flexor digiti minimi brevis. Here's the start of the long saphenous vein and the short saphenous vein. Here's the dorsalis pedis artery, the lateral plantar artery, and the medial plantar artery. Here's the sural nerve, the superficial perineal nerve, and the saphenous nerve, the deep perineal nerve, the medial plantar nerve, and the lateral plantar nerve. Let's now review what we've seen of the bones, joints, and ligaments of the foot. Here are the metacarpals, the proximal phalanges, the middle phalanges, and distal phalanges, the tarso-metatarsal joints, the metatarsophalangeal joints, and the interphalangeal joints. Here are the short plantar ligament, the long plantar ligament, and the plantar aponeurosis. Here's the deep transverse metatarsal ligament, the flexor tendon sheaths, and the plantar ligament of the MP joint.